The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. It's so great to be here today. My name is Ryan Greigg, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jacqueline Smith.
Hello, everyone. We are super excited to be back with you again this week. Today, we are going to talk all about gratitude. And as always, with the 15-Point Plan, our goal is to help you increase your energy and reduce stress. So, Ryan, you have some great practices that you've incorporated into your life as it relates to gratitude. Do you want to start by sharing those?
Yeah, well, I think that it's so important, Jacqueline, that we have this idea of being focused in gratitude. And how can we do a couple things? How can we keep that in our minds? How can we express it? How can we share gratitude? How can we be vocal with our gratitude? But one thing that has worked for me over the years is just to include that in my journaling practice, because journaling is something that I do first thing in the morning. And writing down things that I'm grateful for or that I'm thankful for is a very quick, free, and easy way to kind of remind myself I really do have a lot to be grateful for. And if you're like me, you might wake up some mornings and you start going down that list of all the things you have to do in the day, that list of all the bad things that happened the previous day. You go down that list, and for me, Jacqueline, it can be pretty easy to just like get overwhelmed. It can be pretty easy to wake up and maybe not wake up in the best state. So a quick reset for me right first thing in the morning is to just write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy because, you know, we start with the bigger things, but I challenge our audience. Go pause this episode and just write down 10 things that you're grateful for. Now, maybe you can do it pretty easily, but you might get to 5 and you might have to think about those other couple. So then it just gets down to the small things, like this nice cup of coffee that I got, like the birds singing outside, like the fact that, oh my gosh, I woke up this morning. You know, some people maybe didn't wake up this morning, and it really quickly puts me into such a positive state. It removes the stress that I maybe woke up with, and it energizes me to see that I have so many good things in my life to be grateful for.
I love that. That's really cool. I heard recently a quote that has really impacted me. I've been thinking a lot about it. You don't experience life, you experience the life you focus on. And I think sometimes, like, I don't know about anyone else out there, but I've had those moods that you're talking about in the morning. And sometimes it can feel so forced to sit there and write things down that I'm thankful for. And it almost feels like a little bit contrived or fake. And what I've noticed is if I force myself to do it anyways, it's kind of like if I go to the gym and I'm not super into it, right?
Yeah.
And I force myself to do the workout anyways, even though I didn't feel like doing it. I still had an effective workout and I still feel great afterwards. And so I think a lot of times when I'm writing down or thinking about my gratitudes, if I'm not really feeling it, sometimes I'll allow that to stop me. Like, you don't need to do a gratitude practice necessarily. Like, you don't need it like when you're already feeling awesome and when you're already feeling thankful. So if you think about it that way, like, you need to do it more. It's like those workouts where you did them when you really didn't feel like it. Like, they just mean so much more, you know? And that's how I think of the gratitude practice, because I really struggled with that. And if you're someone that really values, you know, authenticity, and I've done a lot of work to recover from like suppressing things and stuff like that, then I kind of struggled with the gratitude practice a little bit. And that helped me reframe it in my mind that it's kind of like a practice, like a workout. And if I just do it, I do feel better afterwards. And the part that I've implemented that's been really impactful is actually sharing the gratitude. And so sometimes just writing down things I'm thankful for, I don't feel like it maybe did the trick. I'm still not feeling right. I'm not flying high at that point. But when I think about people in my life I'm thankful for and actually just take a second and send them like a text or send them a private message on social media and let them know how much I value them and what they've done in my life, that for some reason always does the trick for me. So there's
Hmm.
something, I think, to you mentioned, like sharing the gratitude verbally. I don't think it has to even be verbally, but when you share it with someone else, I don't know why or what that's doing, but it's like the exclamation point on the whole
Hmm.
thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think there's a couple things to unpack there. I love that quote about what you talked about life and focusing and gratitude. And I think that when we vocalize what we're grateful for, well, it's one thing to think it, it's another
Yeah.
thing to write it down, and then it's a further thing to vocalize it. Because remember, we talked about this on a previous episode about the vibrations that come out of our mouth, those words that come out of our mouth. Well, now we're actually putting that vibration out to the world. And imagine when we tell somebody what we're grateful for, what's that going to do for them? They're probably going to feel good.
Mm.
So we started to think about it, then we vocalized it, then we shared that with that person, which then in tune made that person feel good. So we had a positive thought that turned into a positive action from us that then made somebody feel positive. So I think it's this combination of the thought of something that has changed us and put us into a positive state. Now sharing that with that person puts them into a positive state. We're creating back to those good vibrations like we talked about.
Mhm.
And the ability to share gratitude vocally, for example, having a practice of in your office every morning, ending morning meetings with
Mhm.
something that you're grateful for is something that we've done with our team for such a long time. And it really is such a great way to end a meeting and start your day. You know, we do a morning meeting where we get together and we talk about business for a little bit, but then we end it with gratitude. And what a great way to kind of just wrap that up and say, all right, team, here we go. Let's go, but we're doing it in a way that's like, let's go. And I'm doing it on a positive note because I'm sharing something that I'm grateful for personally. And I think that my team personally really takes that serious. You know, we've had people in the past. In fact, I think of somebody that, you know, there was a guy that was here years ago, and he would just share the same thing every day. It was like, I'm thankful for the scripts that we do. Finally, I said, man, is your life that bad? Like, it's the same thing every day. And he just said, I just don't really think about it. I said, really, you never think about anything else that you're grateful for? And he said, I just don't really think about it. As it turned out, the guy was a pretty kind of downer kind of guy in general. He didn't have a great energy. He didn't have a great attitude. He didn't last very long around here. I think he felt uncomfortable, actually. Now that I say that, I think he felt uncomfortable because he wasn't looking for it, Jacqueline. I think we have to look for the gratitude in our lives, just like the magic that we have to look for. He wasn't looking for that gratitude, and he sat in that place of kind of staying down, which caused him more stress and it took away his energy.
Mhm. Yep. It's interesting because gratitude has been linked to reducing stress, depression symptoms. And I read this article and it said that people that have a grateful mindset report a higher satisfaction with life and stronger social relationships and more self-esteem than those who don't practice gratitude. And it's interesting because it said that it's really possible that people that experience more depression, they're really less likely to practice gratitude. And that's like you're talking about this guy, like he said he didn't even think about it, right? So he's experiencing the life that he focused on. And there was some study, and I don't have it up right now, but I remember we have like so many thoughts, right, in a day. It's an astronomically high number. And a huge percentage of them are negative thoughts. And I know for me, like just in life in general, I mean, you're just always there's problems all around, you know. If you focus on them, they're everywhere. I mean, we get paid to solve problems for a living, Ryan, right? So we're often dealing with a lot of problems, and when you choose to focus on the gratitude, the things that you're thankful for, as opposed to just the problems, or even like not thinking about it at all, you'll kind of lean towards the negative, I think, a lot of us. And so it's almost like you're telling your mind, you know, I want you to focus on this. And when we do that, we find more of what we're looking for. We find evidence for whatever we're looking for. So I just thought that was so interesting that it actually has been linked in studies to higher, like stronger relationships and lower depression and anxiety.
Yeah, and I can see exactly why. And you mentioned those thoughts. I ran a quick search. You're going to see anywhere from 20,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day that the average human has, right?
Mhm.
20,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. But here's where it gets tough is that we know that on average, they say about 80% of those thoughts are not good. In fact, there's an acronym for them. They call them ANTS, ANTS, or ANT, automatic negative thoughts. And unfortunately, we as humans are just wired that way, Jacqueline, where we wake up and we start thinking about the negatives. And the real crappy part about that is we do that and we continue to do that over and over and over again daily until we break it. And I find that gratitude is really one of the best ways that we can look at breaking that we can look at being a bigger picture of our life and being grateful that we have life. And it's like that quote, like, people help me out here. I'm going to butcher this quote, but your garden only grows where you water it. If you never
Mhm.
water your garden, what happens?
Mhm.
All these weeds start coming up. Well, those automatic negative thoughts are the weeds in our brain, right? Like if we don't do anything to keep them away, they're going to come and they're going to come a lot and they're going to fill our brain. So that
Yeah.
to combat that, we have to practice gratitude. If we know that we have 40, 50,000 thoughts a day and the majority of them are negative, we have to combat that. And the best way to do that is through gratitude.
So you're saying that gratitude practice is like ant traps.
Ooh, yeah, I am. I'm saying gratitude practices ant traps. Yeah, because nobody likes ants, like in
Mhm.
any form. The real ones are the ones that are coming into our brain daily, the
Mhm.
automatic negative thoughts. And I think that's how people stay in that framework. Those are the people that's glasses are half empty.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if we can just break out of that and look at all of the things that we have to be grateful for and just start chipping away at that. Well, wait a minute, I have a house. Well, wait a minute, I have a car. Wait a minute, I have food in my refrigerator. I have the coffee that I wanted. I mean, the list goes on and on. When we really look at that, and it can challenge those negative thoughts that come into our brain.
Yeah, and actually it even relieves stress. So apparently when you practice gratitude, you actually cause physiological changes in your body and it actually helps regulate your nervous system. Isn't that wild? So the response to gratitude, it actually brings your blood pressure down and your heart rate down and your breathing, and it helps with relaxation,
Mhm.
which has been linked to like lower levels of heart disease, improved sleep. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's just it's just crazy to me. We had someone on, Andrea, last week, and she talked about the pillars and sleep being one of them. Well, gratitude actually helps support better sleep
Mhm.
because it actually calms the nervous system and it takes us out of that fight or flight mode when we're stressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And adding that into your day, maybe you do it in the morning, maybe you do it at night, or maybe you do both. Do you have a time that you practice it, Jacqueline? A specific time, either morning or night?
In the morning, I do write it down as part of my journaling practice. And what I've been really working on is throughout my day having gratitude throughout my day instead of it just being this one time in the morning. I went to an event recently and someone was talking about all of this, and I actually would never have identified myself as, like, when you were talking about that guy that was kind of a downer. I'm up here. I have a high energy. I would say I'm overall a very positive person most of the time, and I'd kind of gotten into a bit of a funk. And so I've been really working just in the last couple of weeks on refocusing and reframing. Like anytime something happens that maybe would stress me out, I'm just saying, everything is happening for me. And I'm so thankful that it is, because I need all the help I can get. And so I'm just really trying to, instead of it just being at a certain time of the day, just in my mind, it's like making healthy choices in your diet, what you're
Hmm.
eating. and what you're putting in your body throughout the day, you don't just do that in the morning or right before bed, right? It's like an all day thing. Like you're making healthy choices all day, not just for an hour a day or 15 minutes a day. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it with my mindset and my energy. And what I'm focusing on is I don't want to just do it in the morning. I was doing it in the morning. Apparently that was great for my morning.
Yeah.
What about the whole rest of the day?
That's a really good point.
I'm really trying to incorporate it more throughout the day and have it be a primary focus.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you for that. I hadn't really thought about gratitude specifically like that. It makes me ask the question, though, of anytime something comes up, good or bad, asking ourselves, how can I be grateful for this? And I guess more on the hard or challenging or bad or negative side, asking ourselves, like you brought that up, nothing happens to me. It happens for me. And if we can frame our life like that, when the worst things happen, can we take a deep breath? Can we take a step back and go, wow, that's really hard. I don't see why that happened to me. And this is really challenging. How can I be grateful for this? What can come from this that could be positive? And framing it like that. And then maybe all of the things that happen in our life that we don't want or that are challenging, we can take a step back and realize this is exactly what the universe wanted to bless me with right now. It's not the best thing, but it's what I needed to maybe become the better version of myself. This is exactly what I needed right now. Let me smile and be grateful for this challenge.
Yeah.
And now I can solve it from a place of a little bit more energy and a little bit less stress and not have these negative thoughts coming through my head because I have full thoughts of gratitude. So I encourage and would love any feedback from our listeners on how they practice gratitude, whether it's in the morning, whether it's at the night, or like Jacqueline, all throughout the day. And how can you pair that with some other of the 15 points, for example, journaling or your movement? Can you pair those together to share gratitude and continue to check off as many points on that 15-point plan as possible so that you have the most energy so you can serve your people and yourself the best way possible? Don't forget to follow us on all of our platforms. Make sure you go check winmakegive.com. That's where all of the Win Make Give podcasts are hosted. There's a ton of other really good ones on there. And of course, follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, Jacqueline Ray Smith. And Jacqueline, I'm now Ryan Park Greigg. I'm no longer Bentley's old man on Instagram. I had to go through this identity crisis again. Yeah, and maybe you know what? I would like to talk about that on a future episode.
Okay.
Actually, I would like to talk about the reason that I changed my Instagram name from Bentley's old man to Ryan Park Greigg, my name. Because I think it's something that I battled with for a long time, and I think that all of us as parents could talk about this. So we'll talk about that on a future episode.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
So thank you all for listening. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.